Welcome to Legal and Wealthy, the podcast for lawyers who are ready to stop playing small and start building true wealth and a career and life of their dreams, powerfully and purposefully. Whether you're a law student, new associate, or seasoned attorney, this show is for those who are ready to take charge of their law career in a new way. I'm your host, Lauren Klein, attorney, law firm owner, professor, and founder of Legal and Wealthy. Here, we don't just practice law, we practice liberation and becoming wealthy attorneys. Because being a great lawyer shouldn't come at the cost of your time, your peace, or your financial freedom. Every week, you'll get the strategy, mindset, and wealth building guidance that law school never gave you. So you can go from just surviving your career to building a legacy through it. Let's get to work. Welcome back to Legal and Wealthy, a podcast for lawyers and law students who are ready to build true wealth, health, and just to do law differently. Today, I have a topic that is kind of near and dear to my heart right now. I'll have story time a little bit further on in the episode, but today's all about what do you do after a difficult encounter? How do you kind of reset your nervous system? How do you move past it so you don't just constantly replay the situation in your head or hold on to that negative energy within you? So, if you've ever walked away from a conversation, a meeting, an encounter with somebody and just felt your heart racing or your jaw clenched or your shoulders up to your ears, your stomach, wherever you hold it in your body, and hours later, you still feel like you are replaying that conversation, that encounter, and what you said and what you should have said and what they said and all of the above, then this episode is for you. So, we're going to be talking today about how to reset your nervous system after you have a triggering encounter, especially, in high stakes environments like, a meeting with opposing counsel or being before a judge or even having a difficult conversation with a colleague or a friend or a family member. The strategies we're going to talk about today can really help you in help us, because I'm talking to myself too, help us in so many different aspects of either our professional life or our personal life. And like I said, I'm going to share a real recent experience and how it affected me and the things that I have done to help me kind of move past it. Because the truth is that having emotions and learning how to regulate our emotions is not a soft skill. And I kind of hate that phrase, soft skill. It's a power skill. It is the ability to go through an experience, go through an encounter, reflect, and then reset and move forward with our lives. That really is such an incredible skill to have. And I think the skill and the strategy is it's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the more that you learn how to reset after you have one of these encounters, the more that you will be able to move through your life, your career, your personal life in a way that you will feel so much more regulated, so much more aligned, and just able to be true to who you are and taking care of yourself. Because as attorneys or as law students, we're high performing, right? We're often incredibly A-type. We take our careers very seriously. I always say I don't take myself so seriously, but I take my career extremely seriously. And we're trained to, stay composed and be strategic and to stay rational. But we're also human beings, right? We're also human beings with emotions and experiences and triggers. And just because your nervous system maybe does get out of alignment or does get triggered, it doesn't mean that something has gone wrong. It doesn't mean that you're not smart, that you're not strategic, that you're not an incredible boss. It just means that you are a human being who went through something that was difficult, that put you on the defense potentially. And so we're going to talk about what do you do when you have these situations, when you have something that your brain and your body perceives as a threat, whether it's hostility or disrespect or someone kind of challenging your credentials or your abilities or your performance. This episode of Legal and Wealthy is brought to you by Law Firm Sites. Law Firm Sites has been building custom websites and providing online marketing for law firms for over 23 years. They are good at what they do because that's all that they do. If you are looking to expand the reach of your firm or just improve your online presence, Law Firm Sites has the team to do it. Go to lawfirmsites.com or call 1-800-932-8242 and mention Legal and Wealthy to receive 10% off any of their website or marketing packages. Your body and your mind, your brain, it's going to have a reaction. It's going to likely go into, fight or flight to feel like you are being chased and by a lion or something of that nature. And we all feel it differently. I definitely tend to tense up in my shoulders. Sometimes my heart my heart rate accelerates. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign that you are not incredible at what you do. It's biology, it's human nature. And I think the more that we recognize that and just give ourselves a whole lot of grace right off of the bat, the more that we can then do these next steps to go ahead and reset. Because I think what happens to I think what happens to so many of us in the law is whether it's, you're getting called on in class by your professor, or you're trying out for, moot court or mock trial, something that feels big and scary, or you're taking the bar exam, or you're, negotiating with opposing counsel, or you're in like a very stressful, litigious situation, or you're dealing with a difficult client, whatever it might be. As attorneys, and of course it depends on our practice area and our roles, but as attorneys in one form or another, even in our personal life, in one form or another, our body is responding and reacting to situations, and our body can go into that fight or flight, which, if you look back to, back in the caveman and cavewoman days, that was the way that our bodies, our brains told us, danger, danger, there is a threat. The lion is outside of the cave and it's going to come and snatch you and take you. And that was our body's way of surviving and staying alive. Now, flash forward to today, if opposing counsel is being hostile or condescending, that's not an actual, typically, I hope, a physical threat to your body. It's a perceived threat by your brain that you are in danger, that something has gone wrong. And if you don't reset, if you stay in this constant fight or flight, and I talk to so many lawyers that they're like, I think I've been in fight or flight for like 10 years. That is not good for your nervous system, for your brain, for your happiness. Um, if you don't do anything about it, you will stay in that mode. And it's really hard to be creative and be strategic and dream and act and maybe not act. You might have gotten really good at acting from that mode, but it can really inhibit our ability to enjoy our lives and our careers. And it can also inhibit our ability to grow and to create and to be creative and to be maybe soft in some ways and, enjoy our lives. So before I kind of go into the different strategies that I have found very, very helpful for me, I want to give you a little bit of the story time that I promised. So I shared this on my Instagram stories earlier this week, but basically the quick and dirty. I was in a Zoom meeting. Myself and my co-counsel are representing a fiance with respect to a high net worth prenuptial agreement. And we were on a Zoom call with opposing counsel who represents the male fiance. And it was the first time that we had really gone over the agreement and the substantive issues. They had prepared it. We had sent back our red lines and proposals of, some things that the client was asking for, as well as some recommendations as far as, alimony and just different provisions regarding the estate planning and tax that I recommended to protect our client, as of course we are advocating for her as he is advocating for his client. And the meeting started out in not a great way. He kind of, started the meeting in a very aggressive and hostile tone, was making some accusations of overbilling and that the client was basically doing a money grab. And just the tone and the demeanor was, in my opinion, really unprofessional, hostile. And I think, I'm not a litigator, so I'm not used to this. I think a lot of it was posturing to kind of put us on the defensive. I think it was a tactic. I don't think it was necessary, honestly. I think it was actually really unprofessional. And then at one point, there was also a lot of interrupting, which it still boggles my mind that in 2026, we're still having issues with male attorneys interrupting female attorneys, and of course, I'm not saying that it only happens between male and female and things like that, but, the studies show and experience shows that that tends to happen more often than not. So at some point in the call, my co-counsel and I were understandably, getting frustrated, but also just trying to maintain professionalism and advocate for our client while also trying to come to, okay, what are the next steps? What is the resolution? And pretty close to the end of the call, after a series of interruptions, I guess I made a face. I guess my face did something. And opposing counsel made a really unprofessional comment that was basically like, Lauren, I can see you rolling your eyes. We're on Zoom. Please stop. And it was unnecessary. I was not being unprofessional or anything of the sort. Arguably, that was really happening from the other side. But I tell you all of this because, I want you to kind of hear a real life example of what can happen. And I got off the call and I did not follow my own advice. I got off that Zoom. I immediately went back into my emails. I went back into working. It was Friday at like 4:30, but I was like, let me get through some more emails before I go hang out with Andrew and the kids. And I didn't pause. I didn't do any sort of reset. I just kept pushing. I kept pushing through and I eventually finished up work. I hung out with the kids for a little bit. We ordered some pizza. And, Andrew had kind of heard what was happening. He brought me over a glass of wine and he's like, are you okay? And I was really trying to keep it together. I was really trying to just be like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I'm not a crier. And I started crying, not a ton, but it would have been okay if I did. But I just got a little teary and I was like, no, I'm not okay. That really was a difficult encounter for me. I don't do well with confrontation. And, it kind of raised a lot of things for me. Challenges about my billing practices automatically puts me back to a place of am I worth my hourly rate? Am I worthy of charging, a reasonable hourly rate? Am I worthy of my time? Just kind of put me to back into some money stories that I've been working through for years and have come a really, really long way. It also put me back into kind of, being in big law and being surrounded by mostly men and having a lot of or experiencing a lot of unprofessional encounters or conversations or comments. And I've also worked with wonderful men and women over the years, but it just really it put me in not a great place. And so we finished our dinner and I reached out to friend groups and a mastermind that I'm in and also the Inspiring Women in Law League. And I reached out to the groups and I said, here's what happened. One, I just needed to vent to colleagues who understand and who deal with this sometimes on a daily basis if they're litigators. And I also wanted to ask everyone, what do you do? What do you do when this happens? How do you reset? And so I want to share with you today the advice that I was given. I took all of the advice, I did all of the things, and I can say all of it was extremely, extremely helpful. If you are listening to this and you're like, wow, okay, I want to start implementing a reset when something like this occurs, whatever it might be, try one or two things, try all of the things and see what works best for you. Because it's really not great to stay in that fight or flight. I stayed in it way too long. I was replaying the conversation over and over in my head. I woke up at like 5 a.m. the next day. I did not follow my own advice until the next day. And then it really was helping a lot Because I think that the key reframe before we go into the strategy, and the thing that I really want you to hear and understand and take with you, is we don't reset our nervous system by working harder. We don't reset our nervous system by pushing through. That keeps us in fight or flight, that keeps us in that mode. And then our body is not relaxing, it's not resetting, our nervous system is not regulated. You need to reset it by giving a signal to your body that the danger has passed, that your body and your mind are safe, and that it's okay to feel that way, and that the logic comes after the regulation, not before. So, step one, strategy one, interrupting the stress loop. This is what you do. This is what I wish I would have done. And what I will do the next time, I promise myself, is immediately interrupt that encounter, or immediately after the encounter, interrupt the stress loop. So, the first thing that I will do next time, and that I recommend you do, is to interrupt that stress response, that fight or flight, before you start to spiral. I started to spiral a bit, and you could do this in many different ways. Maybe if you're working from home, it's grabbing a pillow and screaming into it. Maybe it's going for a quick run around the block. Maybe it's, especially if you're in an office, some deep breaths, like really, really intentional 10 deep breaths, 5 deep breaths, rolling your shoulders, shaking your hands on your shoulder, getting up, moving around, whatever it is that you need to do to move your body, and begin to tell your nervous system and your brain, we are no longer in danger. We are safe. You are safe. You are safe. You are safe. The moment has passed and you are safe. So choosing something physical in that moment to interrupt the stress loop is imperative, because it's going to send that signal to your body. And then doing some sort of affirmation or self-talk that you are safe will also really, really help. The next step is to complete the stress cycle. So I'm in a mastermind with Barbara Strehans of Your Tax Coach, and her advice was great. She gave the advice as well to do something with your body, physical, yell, scream, run, shake your arms, whatever it is. But then once you do that, tell your body that interaction is over. I leave. I take nothing with me. It is complete. Something to that effect, something that works, because if you don't discharge that stress, it's going to continue to store within your body. And I do think that, because so many of us, whether we're litigators or not, we're dealing with sometimes with these stressful situations. And if we are just storing up the stress over years and years and decades of law practice, no wonder our industry is suffering in many ways a mental health crisis. So it's not just about moving the body, it's about completing the stress cycle. And there's some different ways you can do this. The affirmation that I gave you would be a really, really great one. Maybe taking the physical, steps further, a slow walk outside, some really, really deep stretches. In our virtual yoga, our legal and wealthy yoga with Aman Costigan, we do a lot of hip releasing. And Aman always explains that we hold a lot of emotions in our hips as human beings, but especially as lawyers and law students. And so stretching and releasing like your hip flexors, your legs can be really, really helpful for emotional regulation. So I love our virtual yoga. It is every time I leave it feeling so great. So definitely one of the perks to joining the squad community, the membership, because we get to see Aman and learn from her and do virtual yoga with her every single month. Another great idea would be go to the gym or book a workout, Pilates or weights or whatever it might be, to continue to complete that stress cycle and continue to tell yourself, I take nothing with me from that interaction. That interaction is complete. Maybe telling yourself that that interaction does not define me. It does not tell me anything about myself other than the fact that it was an encounter that maybe didn't go the way that I wanted it to. But I want you to know that if you feel a certain type of way after a stressful situation, you're not being dramatic. And by taking these steps, you are being strategic with respect to your well-being and your mental health and your ability to continue to enjoy your day, your night, your weekend, whatever it might be. Hey, let's be honest. Are you a high functioning attorney or law student, but kind of low key exhausted, maybe successful on paper, but secretly wondering, is this it? That's exactly why I created the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. It is a 6-day reset for lawyers and law students who are done with burnout, chaos, money, energy, and just running on fumes. For 6 days, we reset your mindset, your money, and your nervous system because we cannot build true wealth and have great health if we are living in survival mode. It's just the fact of the matter. And because I am that kind of girl, we end with a virtual yoga session with the Aman Costigan. So you're not just wealthy on paper, you're regulated, grounded, and actually enjoying your life. This is not about hustling harder. It's about recalibrating everything so your wealth and your health can feel calm, aligned, and sustainable. If you're ready to enter your wealthy lawyer era without burnout, join me inside the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. 6 days, one reset, a completely different relationship with money, your health, and your success. Check out the show notes or go to my Instagram to learn more about the Wealthy Lawyer Reset. So, step 3, strategy 3, would be separate the facts from the threat. And this was something that my therapist told me. I immediately scheduled a meeting with my therapist as well. I like to bring in all the big dogs, when something happens, to really, um, stop the stress cycle as quickly as I can, so I can continue on with my life. So her homework for me was separating the facts from the threat. So, writing down, journaling what happened, journaling the things that bothered me, and kind of using statements like, I felt shamed when this happened, or I felt enraged when this happened, or whatever it is, the feelings that you are uncovering, in the journaling process. And then write down the facts. What actually happened? What story are you telling yourself about it? And is that story ultimately true? Starting to write down, this is a really great exercise, if you're feeling imposter syndrome as well, writing down the things that you know about yourself, the things that you know to be true. I know I'm an ethical and honest biller. If anything, sometimes I underbill. I know that I advocate for my client and that when it comes to the trust and estates and tax portion of her prenuptial agreement, I know I did a great job. Probably what pissed him off. I wrote down all of those things in my journal to continue to separate the fact from the threat. And, I think writing down why you actually felt threatened, because if someone comes up to you on the street, let's say you don't have blue hair, and they come up to you on the street and they're like, oh, wow, your blue hair is so stupid. It's so ugly. You would be like, I don't have blue hair. I don't even know what you're talking about. But if someone challenges the value of your work or your billing practices or your competency, for me, like, those are things that I feel confident about, but that I still have moments, right? I have moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, am I worthy of my rate? Am I doing the best job that I can do? It's those inner those stories that we tell ourselves, those insecurities, those weaknesses that we all have. And, if you're doing the work, you're going to continue to grow in those areas and feel confident in the stories that you're telling yourself, but you still can get triggered. You still can get brought back to, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not worthy of, XYZ, fill in the blank, whatever it is. So start to journal about that and why that is not true. Disprove those facts, disprove what made you feel threatened and why it made you feel threatened. For me, we're going to be doing the Wealthy Lawyer Reset starting next week. Once this episode airs, we'll already have started. So check out the show notes if you want to do the challenge, the reset. But I'm going to be thinking about, okay, why am I still getting triggered when it comes to money and my views of my own value when it comes to money and earning and things like that? That's something that I have picked up is an area that I need to give some attention to. Regulating and making sure you're separating the facts gives you it gives you discernment, and it gives you the ability to rebuild the confidence that maybe got shaken after that encounter. And then step 4, and I love this step, and this step is imperative, do not skip it, is reclaiming your power. Because someone came in, whether intentionally, in this case I think it was intentionally, but or unintentionally, and they took away a little bit or a lot of bit of your power. And the beauty of that is you are the only one who can give away your power and the only one who can reclaim it. And this is very, very freeing to know that, sure, maybe that didn't go so well, or maybe there was some, power given up in a moment, or you felt like there was. This is the time to reclaim it. So with the work that I'm doing now, that I'll continue to do, is reminding myself who I was before that interaction and who I am after that interaction, and the fact that that interaction does not define me. It does not define you. It does not mean anything. It does not mean that anything went wrong. It does not define your competency, your authority, your abilities, or your worth, right? And so another affirmation that I've been working on in this is, I am capable. I am worthy. I am grounded. I am powerful. I respond. I don't react. And that has been very helpful too, especially with that loop of telling the story over and over and over again. So, why does this matter? Why does all of this matter? you know, like I said, if we're not resetting our nervous system, then you're carrying your energy forward. You're carrying your energy into your family time, which I did, and it's fine. My kids are fine. Everyone's great. But I carried it into my family time, my Friday night. Maybe you carry it into the next call with your next client, or your next discussion with opposing counsel or co-counsel. Maybe you carry it into your date night. Maybe you carry it into your weekend, your decision making. Maybe your confidence is feeling a little bit shaken. And so this regulation is imperative. Again, it's a power skill that you develop over time. And the more you do it, you strengthen the muscle. But it's how you protect yourself. It's how you protect your ability to make decisions, your clarity, your longevity as an attorney, and your presence, your leadership presence, your authority that you need to continue to move through your career and build and grow. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. These steps have been incredibly, incredibly helpful for me. I think the only thing I would kind of add is, if you need to cry, cry. If you need to laugh, laugh. If you need to call a friend, if you have a community, just reaching out to a community to, first of all, we all need some validation sometimes, to feel validated, to feel seen, and then to get advice. It is everything. And that's what we're all about at Legal and Wealthy. We're all about validation and supporting each other and having strategies and implementing strategies and being accountable within the squad membership. So if this episode resonated with you, I want you to know you're not alone. There is nothing wrong with you. Nothing has gone awry. You are a human being operating in high pressure environments. And so it is very normal to have human being reactions, and I think that learning to regulate your nervous system is one of the biggest ways to expand your wealth and your well-being. And I truly, truly believe that. So if this was helpful, share this episode with a colleague, with a friend, if you're a professor, with your law students, because we all need it. I need it. You need it. If you want more tools like this, definitely subscribe to this podcast, Legal and Wealthy. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Legal and Wealthy. If today's episode sparked something in you, take it one step further. Share it, leave a review, or come connect with me inside the Legal and Wealthy community. Remember, wealth isn't just about the numbers. It's about how you lead, how you live, and how you build beyond the billable. You already have what it takes to create real freedom and wealth. I'm just here to help you claim it.